It all started with one message. Just one tiny mistake, one tap on the wrong number, that changed her entire life. When Sophie, a struggling waitress trying to make ends meet, sent a flirty text meant for her crush, she never expected the person who read it would be a billionaire. A man who had everything, but no one who spoke to him like she just did. What happened next was something no one could have predicted, because instead of blocking her, the millionaire made her a shocking offer. Sophie Turner's life was a constant race between exhaustion and hope. Every morning she woke up before sunrise, tied her messy hair into a bun, and walked through the dim streets of the city toward the small cafe where she worked. The aroma of roasted coffee beans filled the air as she pushed open the door, greeting her coworkers with a tired smile. To her, this cafe wasn't just a job, it was her battlefield and her dream all in one. Her mother had passed away 2 years ago, leaving Sophie with memories, hospital bills, and a quiet promise that someday, somehow, she would create a better life. Most days were uneventful, customers coming and going, orders shouted over the counter, tips barely enough to buy groceries. But one particular evening, as the neon lights outside flickered and the rain painted silver lines down the window, something inside Sophie stirred. Her best friend Emma had been teasing her all week about Liam, the handsome regular who came in every morning for a cappuccino and smiled at her as if she was the only person in the room. Sophie had always admired him from a distance, but never dared to say a word beyond, "Your usual." That night, after closing the cafe, Emma sat with her and said, "You've got to tell him. Just text him something cute. What's the worst that could happen?" Sophie laughed nervously. Maybe Emma was right. Maybe it was time to take a chance. So back in her tiny apartment, she curled up on her couch, phone in hand, and typed a message. Her heart raced as she read the words over and over. "You looked extra handsome today. If you keep smiling like that, I might just fall for you." Her cheeks flushed crimson as she hit send. She buried her face in a pillow, groaning in embarrassment. "What am I doing?" she muttered. But just as she was about to toss her phone aside, it buzzed. Her stomach flipped. She opened the message eagerly, only to freeze. The reply read, "I don't think I was at your cafe today, but I'm flattered." Her eyes widened in horror. She scrolled up to check the number, and her heart sank. She had sent the message to the wrong person. "Oh no!" she gasped, typing furiously. "I'm so sorry. That wasn't for you. Please ignore it." A few seconds later, another reply came through. "No need to apologize. It's been a long time since someone said something that made me smile." Something about that response caught her off guard. It wasn't creepy or sarcastic. It was gentle, curious. She hesitated, then smiled faintly and replied, "Well, I'm glad I could make your day. By accident." What she didn't know was that the stranger on the other end, Alexander Grant, was sitting in his glass-walled penthouse, staring at the city lights, feeling more alone than he ever had. Her accidental message had broken through his silence. And that night, as they continued to exchange texts filled with awkward jokes and unexpected warmth, Sophie had no idea her biggest mistake had just opened the door to the most extraordinary chapter of her life. As midnight deepened and the world outside grew quiet, Sophie found herself still glued to her phone, typing and smiling like a teenager in love. She didn't understand why she couldn't stop replying to this stranger. Maybe it was the way he wrote, not like the men she knew, not flirtatious or pushy, but thoughtful, real. His words felt like warmth in a cold room. He told her he was sitting alone with a view of the city skyline, drinking black coffee because he couldn't sleep. She teased him, saying only insomniacs and dreamers drank coffee at midnight. He replied, "Maybe I'm both." She laughed quietly, her heart oddly light. Over the next few days, their conversation didn't stop. Every evening after her shift, she'd come home, shower off the smell of espresso and burnt toast, and wait for her phone to light up. Sometimes it was a simple, "How was your day?" On other times, it was deep questions that made her think about life and love and everything she'd forgotten she once wanted. He didn't talk about himself much, Only that his name was Alex, that he worked in business, and that he traveled a lot. Sophie didn't pry. For the first time, she liked not knowing everything. It kept the mystery alive. One night, she told him about her mother, how they used to sit on the fire escape, painting together while the sun set behind the buildings, how her mother's laughter used to fill every corner of their tiny apartment. When she passed, Sophie stopped painting. "I guess life just took over," she typed. Alex's reply came slowly, but it made her throat tighten. "Then maybe it's time to start again." Something in those words stayed with her. The next morning, she found her old sketchbook buried in a box. The pages were faded, but her mother's brushstrokes were still there. That night, she sent Alex a photo of her first new painting, a cup of coffee on a windowsill under a rainy sky. He responded with a single line that made her heart flutter. "You just painted peace." The more they talked, the more Sophie forgot how they'd met. The wrong number mistake had turned into something so natural it felt destined. She'd begun to imagine what he looked like. Maybe he was older, maybe younger. Maybe his eyes carried stories like his words did. All she knew was that he listened in a way no one else ever had. Then one evening, after a long, brutal day at work, she confessed half-jokingly, "If I ever get rich, I'm opening my own cafe. A cozy one where people can drink, dream, and forget their troubles for a while." He replied almost instantly, "That sounds like a place the world needs." She smiled. "Yeah, well, unless a miracle happens, it'll stay a dream forever." There was a pause, longer than usual. Then came a message that made her pulse race. "What if I told you I could make that dream real?" Sophie stared at the screen, unsure whether to laugh or be terrified. "You mean you'd help me open it?" she typed hesitantly. This time the reply came without delay. "Yes, I'm serious. Meet me tomorrow. Let me show you what a little faith and one wrong message can do." Her breath caught. Was he joking, or was destiny actually knocking at her door?